Welcome to the Purposeful Fitness with Coach Ola, where I dive in deeper into holistic health and fitness topics that would help you stay inspired, motivated, and dedicated to living a purposeful fit life while pursuing for the Akhirah. Hey everyone, welcome back to episode number 55 with Coach Ola. Today's guest is Noor Salem, where we talked about immunity and the importance of it during Ramadan and during COVID. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our returning guest, Noor Salem. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today's guest is a special guest, Noor Salem, who I am so happy to have her on again. She is a returning guest from our previous episode on Sunnah Superfood. So welcome back, Noor. How are you today?
Assalamualaikum. Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well. Jazakallah khairan.
Yaki, would you please remind our audience and about what you do and the book that you've written and the new edit that you have as well?
So I'm a certified holistic health coach. I work with my clients through my own wellness practice, healing naturally and holistically through the Quran and Sunnah as well. I tie that with my holistic certification, alhamdulillah, from different issues like eczema and joint pain, inflammation, migraines, food allergies, food intolerance, insomnia, and other things as well. While going through their diet, healing the symptom, not healing that, not just bandaging the symptom, but actually getting to the root cause and finding out what's triggering that symptom that they're experiencing. And alhamdulillah, I just the past few months released my other 3 books, Sunnah Superfoods for Kids, which is like a workbook for younger children, and it's loaded with recipes that are kids friendly as well as activities, and of course the discussion of Sunnah and different hadith they can memorize and stuff like that.
Awesome. And yes, so this is actually really perfect timing. Number one, with the coronavirus epidemic, it's really important to work on our immunity, and that's why I'm happy to have you on to talk to us about it. So during Ramadan, how can we actually maintain our nutrition, our immunity to be healthy, at least during Ramadan? And if we were to do the actual fasting in Shawwal, I always mix up Shaban, Ramadan, Shawwal. So how do we do it during fasting?
So definitely, I would say even in other lectures I'm giving this year for Ramadan and health, it's definitely the advice is quite different than last year because of the coronavirus we're experiencing, and me receiving so many questions about immunity and what food can I take, and is black seed okay, and all these different topics that are coming up, with everyone being so concerned. So a few pointers on that, when it comes to Ramadan is, especially with fasting all day long, we often might hear people joke and say, well, because it's Ramadan, I'm just going to eat whatever I want at iftar, and you see the deep fried food, and sometimes we even make certain food just for Ramadan, even certain desserts that are just made during Ramadan. Not that it's wrong, it's just the concept that, many of these foods are extremely unhealthy, they're deep fried, they're loaded with refined sugars and all these other detrimental ingredients. So the first thing I always recommend is, just because you're fasting all day and you're not eating, it's not a green light to just go ahead and eat anything at iftar and suhoor. It's actually the very opposite. Because you're not eating all day, your body is more in need of nutrients and supplements and whole foods that are nutrient dense. So that would be my first take, is to eat whole food, healthy diet. The whole concept of halal and tayyib, which I love to cover and touch base on. And aside with that, of course, staying hydrated is also very essential. The body is not drinking, you're not drinking water all day, you're extremely dehydrated. So it's extremely important to stay hydrated as much as you can, instead of reaching for that sugary soda or drinking other beverages that also may be loaded with sugar. And having a limit on caffeine also plays a role.
Awesome. Yeah, in the episode we talked about the Sunnah Superfood, you actually dived really deeply into it. So I recommend everyone to go back to hear that episode, because she did share amazing tips, especially for Ramadan as well. But now with the time being limited, with some people might have actually limited resources and financial difficulties perhaps, how do you recommend people can keep it friendly, budget friendly, and time less time consuming?
Yeah, that's definitely a great question. So, of course, the question of organic also came up in a lecture I gave 2 weeks ago with my ICD. And the question was, well, in a time like this, do we really have to be buying everything organic? And my response, although I, usually, especially when it comes to produce, for example, I'd recommend, looking for certain fruits and vegetables. And I cover this in my book, The Dirty Dozen versus the Clean 15. the fruits and vegetables highest in pesticides and that one should be getting organic as much as possible, versus those that are very low in pesticide, thus have no harm, whether you get them organic or not. But really, in a time like this, there's a huge concern of many people financially, losing their jobs, in distress, whatever it may be. They're on the brink of, anxiety and worry about this situation. So my advice is, especially when it comes to, the emphasis I put on halal and tayyib, go back to whole food, go back to natural food, is really, going from processed food, going from that pizza you may have been eating, or going from that, the deep fried potato chips loaded with hydrogenated oil, or loaded with, genetically modified oils and sodium and all these, unhealthy chemicals and preservatives that are destroying your body. Just taking that step and pushing that processed food out of your diet or out of your kids' diet and going for whole food. It doesn't have to be organic. It doesn't have to be, the 5 times the, the complaint is sometimes a lot more expensive. It doesn't have to be more expensive. It's just the concept going back to whole food. This is the biggest step forward, and especially things that may be convenient at a time like this is getting frozen fruits and vegetables. It keeps it handy, it's preserved. You don't have to keep going grocery shopping in a time that you're concerned going to the grocery stores. And it also helps with meal planning. When you have a lot of fruits and vegetables, okay, let me just pull this spinach out and make up something. Let me make a dish. And so really that's, even when it comes to meat and chicken, and it's a question that, I answered because it was focused on that, is, the concept of, well, does my meat really have to be organic? Well, if you're going, again, from having deep fried fast food chicken to just getting at least chicken for your family, and that's what you can do at the time, then it's much better for you, Allahu Alam.
Yeah, so would you please give us like at least one recipe for, it could be a breakfast / suhoor, and like one example for like a healthy alternative for like lunch, dinner? Because like, a lot of Arabs, like my family, myself as well, like we like to tend to eat lots of fried foods, and it's also like the cheaper to buy like white bread, for example, versus like in a healthier bread. So what can you include in a healthy breakfast to keep your immune system strong throughout the whole month of Ramadan, but also like afterwards?
Yeah. So when it comes to food, and of course, the other question that pops up with this is, well, should I have suhoor? And my response is always yes, where the Prophet ﷺ reminds us that there is a blessing in the suhoor. He says, "Tasahharu fa inna fi suhoori barakah." He says to have suhoor, for indeed there is a blessing in suhoor. So that's that aside, when it comes to what to eat, I highly recommend, if one is going back to sleep and they want something very light, at least having dates and water is, it suffices. Dates are loaded with so many benefits, and all the vitamins and nutrients that they are loaded with help to sustain your energy during the day, and also you're getting your nutrients that you need. If one is looking for something bigger, they stay awake after Fajr, then I would look for something that's high in protein, high in fat, trying to avoid things that are very salty, because it's going to leave one salty all day and it's not going to be easy to fast. Avoiding things that are fried as much as possible. Again, leaving one feeling sluggish after you eat, making you tired, making you not have energy during the day. Also plays a role in the mood, which is something I talk about in one of my other lectures. So all these foods, really one should try to avoid them. Things like, one example I'd give is having eggs. Having eggs is really loaded with vitamins and nutrients, and it's really high in protein. It's very filling. It grants you satiety after consuming it. Maybe pairing it with like fresh vegetables on the side, make some cucumbers, tomatoes, maybe avocado. You have a really high protein, high fat meal that, gives one energy, keeps you going during the day. And then when it comes to iftar, really, I would recommend, of course, starting with dates and water as the sunnah. And, things like lentil soup, although if you eat lentil soup, you're going to be quite full to have anything after. But having a small amount of lentil soup, is extremely filling. And it's, one of the most beneficial nutrients out there, nutrient-dense legumes out there, loaded with so many, so much fiber and protein, and that's aside all the nutrients like folate, iron, and such. And when it comes to the meal, just looking at whole food as much as possible. In my book, I talk about frying. I talk about the concept. When I have a client going from frying, deep fried food in like corn oil or soybean oil, and I'm trying to have them transition into a healthier option like avocado oil or coconut, I don't tell them not to fry at all. I tell them, take this transition. Start frying using avocado oil like you have to. So in Ramadan, if we really want the fattoush salad, you can't have it break. Like I usually, you can see the recipes in my book for different options, but I usually, when it comes to recipes like that, I just tend to drizzle the bread and, cut up the pita bread and drizzle it with avocado oil, put some spice on it, and just roast it in the oven until it's super crunchy. But here and there, one might want something that's fried. There might be a dish you really need to fry something, using for that dish. I'd recommend just looking for these healthier alternatives like avocado oil, like coconut oil. If anyone's interested in the whole topic of why these oils are healthier, unlike soybean, corn oil, Crisco, margarine, all these other really unhealthy oils, you can find more information in the book, inshallah.
Yeah, that's actually amazing. And as I'm listening to you, like, getting all the notes, for someone who is super stressed out, that's very important for the immune system. And so let's talk about the importance of stress management for the sake of like having a healthy immune system and able to fight COVID, even if we like, God forbid we get it, but the importance of like the right food with the right stress management coping mechanisms to have a stronger immune system. So what foods do you recommend for stress management? And I can talk about the tools to stay stress-free, inshallah.
Yeah. So I do have a section in my book, and I call it the Sunnah habits to de-stress. And different habits from the Sunnah. Things like just taking a walk, going out in nature, breathing. It plays a huge role. Far beyond what we expect in terms of our mental health and our emotional health and our spiritual health. All that together really is tied in. And just spending time in nature away from social media. Oftentimes we're like, oh, the minute we're in nature, this looks so beautiful, let me go put up a Snapchat story, or let me go tag, where we're just so attached to our phones. So just having that break just for yourself, spend time with the family, go for a walk. These things are really play a role in decreasing your stress. But also other habits, like if one's work is very stressful, find a way to manage that. Find a way to maybe get things off your task list if possible. Find a way maybe to cut out something else from your time, or perhaps a really amazing advice I think that one can find amazing benefit in is staying up after Fajr. Where we're promised, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam reminds us that there is a blessing for his ummah in the hours after Fajr, in the morning hours. So that's another thing to add. And then when it comes to different foods, really eliminating sugar, eliminating processed food, all these things, because stress suppresses your immune system, but so does many foods. Having processed food and junk food and inflammatory food and having sugar all suppress your immune system. So going back to, again, whole food diet, avoiding these processed things, play a role in both your stress and your immunity. Wallahu alam.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point. So eating the right foods is definitely important for immunity, like for stress management, but also like you said, taking a walk. And I'm a very big, like when it comes to taking time to meditate, to draw, write, art, draw, music, dance, or like workouts. That's very important. So let's talk about the importance of hydration for the immunity, like the right food to stay hydrated, and like why it's so important to stay hydrated.
Yeah. So, well, if you look at it really, one just do a little research or just know biology. Anyone, it's basic that our body is mostly made of water. So when we're not drinking enough water, and one can probably realize this, sometimes I have clients when they're journaling, they're able to recognize why sometimes after a meal or during certain days, why are they extra moody, why are they having feeling more down, why is their state being impacted, what exactly is the root. And so just looking at things like hydration plays a huge role. When you're having a really salty diet, really high processed food diet, it affects our mental health. And so the whole many foods, like having a high salt diet, high sugar diet, not drinking enough water, not eating whole food, fresh fruits and vegetables, it really affects one's psychological state. It affects the neurotransmitters in our brain. And this is something I cover in one of my other lectures, which is a very vast topic to get into now. But really just the concept of staying hydrated is so important. I can't emphasize enough. And with my clients, I usually even have them track the amount of water they're drinking, and also go back and see, okay, what's the pattern? On this day you felt like this. Do you think it's related to the food you were consuming? Do you think it's related to the extra amount of fast food you had, or the snacks you had this day, and not enough water? So it's really important in terms of immunity or not, our health overall. It's so important to be drinking a lot of water every day.
Yes, and I want to ask you, how have you been able to manage your, like after COVID came into like life, how have you been able to manage it and work on your immune system?
So a few things that I do, and I obviously, I recommend them to clients, and I also, alhamdulillah, I had a few lectures as well as an interview on the Dean show last week about this topic. And a few of the things that I implement myself, alhamdulillah, I grew up on, and this is what led me to my whole career, is, black seed oil, which is, something that you see now many people talking about because of, oh, this medicine and it cures it, and black seed, and everyone's talking about it. But what, amazes me is, whether there's a pandemic or not, whether there is, this virus around and everyone's in fear or not, black seed should definitely be something I highly recommend in the household of every single person. Whether the capsules, whether it's the seeds, whether it's the oil, just consuming it, and it goes for kids as alike, is extremely, extremely beneficial in so many ways. And subhanAllah, when it comes to the immune system, it's, no exception. The black seed is found to help boost the immune system, help to, destroy bad bacteria, and, improving the health overall. So that's one thing. And I like to pair the black seed with honey, but not any type of honey. And I talk about different honeys in my book, which honey to avoid, why 76% of the honey today is fake honey, and one can just be consuming sugar and high fructose corn syrup and not really have pure honey full with the enzymes and the pollen and all the benefit. But one of the best honeys I really, especially during this time, especially when we're trying to really boost the immune system and really destroy bacteria as much as possible, is Manuka honey. And I share different recommendations on my website, nutrition.com. I share different recommendations of the best types of honey because, like I mentioned, the majority of honey we have in the supermarket today is fake, and many people are not aware of that. So you might be consuming something thinking it's healthy, and you're feeding it to your children, putting in your food, and then at the end of the day, it's really not, all loaded with just sugar and things that you don't want to be putting in your body. So pairing the black seed with honey is a great way to take it, especially if, someone finds that the black seed oil is too pungent in taste. It helps to, make it much easier to take in. And, other things like I mentioned is the whole food diet, avoiding processed food, cutting out sugar. Sugar suppresses the immune system for hours after ingesting. So that's another very important one. And other things like garlic and onions, they're, what I consider nature's antibiotic, and lemon juice and dark leafy green vegetables, all these things loaded with vitamin C, loaded with antioxidants and zinc, all these other things that are, subhanAllah, how every single nutrient, every single vitamin plays a different role in our health, but we really need them all. So just going back to whole food diet, eliminating the junk food, and taking these superfoods like black seed, like honey, and olive oil as well. Wallahu alam.
Yeah, it's actually a really good point. Garlic and onion and the lemon juice. And that's what my mom has been making at home. Like tea using lemon and then
Ginger?
ginger. Yes.
Yeah, ginger. Yeah, ginger's
It's
another
so
beautiful.
helpful. Yes. Talk about it. Tell us about it.
Yes. So ginger is actually, it's funny, growing up, anytime we'd get sick. So black seed oil and black seed itself was something enormous. Like growing up as children, I vividly remember, and I mentioned this in my book, the story of this, my parents, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them, every single morning having us take the black seed with the honey. And that was just, subhanAllah, enormous. And we would, they would talk about how this is from the sunnah and talk about the benefits with us. And another one I vividly, until today, I always have, is my father making the ginger tea, and then he would, using fresh ginger, of course, making it much more stronger, and mixing it with honey, raw honey is exactly what we would take if we're sick, if you have a cold, you have a flu, whatever it is. That was like the go-to drink. So it's something I highly, highly recommend. Any way of consuming ginger, and of course, taking it fresh is much stronger than taking it, with dried ginger, or you even see so many other forms today. But taking it fresh is absolutely the best way to take it for optimum nutrients. And subhanAllah, the benefits, I talk about it in the book, the benefits of ginger are incredible. The thing with ginger is it does interact with some medication, just like pineapple juice and orange juice. So one has to be careful if you take it, around the same time as medication. It does play a role in that.
Yeah. No, it's very true about the natural ginger versus like the fake stuff, because it's what we do. Like you have to wash it and then make sure it's clean and let it sit in the water before you pour it out, because I one time poured it, but it wasn't like soaked in yet. So it was just like a clear water instead of the actual ginger with the lemon.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's definitely something it also tastes great. I mean, maybe not agree.
Yeah.
It tastes great, especially when you boil it, and you just throw in that fresh lemon juice, and it gives a really nice touch with the sweetness of the honey, and it's subhanAllah, something incredibly healthy.
Yeah, and so for the parents who have like picky eater kids, what recommendations, and how can we help the parents who are staying at home with their kids and the kids are like, fussy?
Yeah.
How to help them?
Yeah, that's something I cover, and subhanAllah, that's one reason why, it's a major reason why it led me to publish the Sunnah Superfoods for Kids. It's,
Yeah.
the work that I was mentioning earlier, and actually my 12-year-old sister, Layan, and that's why you can see her as an author on the cover. She played a big role in publishing this book too, because, when I go many years back, when I first started my health coaching and such, Layan was, also as normal as every kid, wasn't biggest fan of vegetables. And so what I used to do is oftentimes, like, the famous mac and cheese you can see on the front cover, and I share the recipe, is my pumpkin mac and cheese recipe. And so I would sneak it in. And then I realized, especially after she found out in one of my group coaching classes, I realized that having the child get involved with cooking and get in the kitchen and just watch you make stuff, or maybe, maybe not at this time, it's not the best time to take your kids grocery shopping, of course, but just getting them involved in the process. Talking to them, I'm like, okay, what fruits and vegetables should we get today? What should we order today? What's your favorite kind? And just, and that's why a lot of the activities that I put in the book, and me and Leanne came up with the activities ourselves, are things like the rainbow chart. So having the kid talk about the favorite, red fruits or vegetables that they have. And so when they have this, attachment, and they start, finding like, oh, I have a favorite fruit and I have a favorite vegetable, it's going to be very different than, just giving your kids snacks all day and trying to, sneak in the fruits and the vegetables in their meals. So that's one thing, getting the kids involved, and have them enjoy it, make it a project, let them cook, have like brownie recipes, cookie recipes, all these different healthy things. And kids won't know, they don't know the difference between healthy sweeteners versus refined sugar that's really unhealthy for them. They don't know the difference between healthy flour that's not bleached versus flour that spikes your blood sugar and leads to so many other health conditions. So getting them involved, having them enjoy the process of cooking in the kitchen, it makes a very different, relationship with the healthy food. And then another thing I seen, which I thought was amazing, was one mom, sharing how, you see all this different marketing. You see yogurt with SpongeBob, and you see the box of cereal with their favorite princess and stuff like that. And this obviously, and in one of my books I had to read during my training called Food Politics, it talks about this in depth, and how the marketing tactics for children is unbelievable. It's, trillions and trillions of dollars are spent annually just to market and have these different tactics of cartoons and the color of the box, even just to get to children to, or putting stickers and putting a toy in the box. All these different things that are used play a big role in, children getting attached to unhealthy food in this unhealthy manner. So one thing that I advise is, and I shared this last month while in Dallas at a retreat with Sheikh Noor Salem and Susie Ismail, and I shared this with the moms, and a lot of them were laughing, but some of them even came to me after saying like, this is amazing, an idea I never thought of. And so what I said was, instead of having your kid see Toy Story or see SpongeBob on their favorite boxes, unhealthy box of cereal loaded with food colorings and stuff, sugar and stuff, why not take some stickers with you to the grocery store, put some Toy Story on your broccoli, put some SpongeBob on, something else, and just go home and be like, today we're having some Toy Story broccoli with SpongeBob chicken or something. Like, it's going to definitely have a very different reaction with a child. So that's another tip I like to share with parents.
Very important. I like the sticker idea to like keep it fun, make it engaging, just like how they have it for Ramadan, the Muslim families. It's so cute. But yeah, these are very good recommendations. Excuse me. Keep stickers, make it fun, and like hide the ingredients that they don't like. But sometimes kids can actually catch that up, because I used to catch up. Yeah, the bananas. Yeah. Like I can smell it right away.
Yep, they can. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are like final recommendations that you can give for us, an audience, to have a really, as strong as we can immune system through diet, through workouts, through anything you find beneficial to share, inshallah?
Yeah. You said 5 recommendations?
No, anything you find beneficial.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, if one is not taking the black seed oil, I highly urge, ordering it today. Just go to Amazon. You can go to my website if you want an exact good product, because there are so many out there, and unfortunately, they're not all pure. Order yourself some black seed oil, get some capsules. And when it comes to black seed, it's important that I mention the seeds in the oil. It's fine for kids to take. It's fine for adults to take. But with with pregnancy, it's not recommended to take the seeds nor the oil. So that's something that it's important for anyone listening to keep in mind.
Why not? I didn't know that.
So it has a role just like cinnamon. And cinnamon, that's one reason why it's not advised to take whatsoever during pregnancy. Is basically it causes uterus contractions, and it can lead to miscarriage. It can lead to other things. So it's not recommended to take it whatsoever.
Interesting. So, see, I never had kids, and not so I
Yeah.
did not know that. That's interesting. So, for anyone who's pregnant, you don't recommend having black seed oil with it, and as well, like, what else?
Or the black seed itself. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend.
Okay. All right. So, what other question I should have asked you, but I didn't?
So, really, overall in Ramadan, something else I find very important is the concept of portion control. And I know this is where I get a lot of hate now, like, oh man, come on, I was fasting all day. But really, if one was just to, see the pattern of, study it, like, how do you feel when you're fasting all day and then iftar time comes and we have this lavish iftar party and we're just, eating away all these different foods and deep fried appetizers and then we have our meal and we have this, it's not to say we can't have nice iftars and make food. It's there's no problem with that. But of course the concept of wasting comes in. That's one point. If I remember, and I will never ever forget this, many years ago when I went to someone's house for iftar, and it was all like a girls' iftar, younger girls, and I believe I was probably in middle school. And after everyone finished eating, and all the big platters were, on the floor and, on the table cover, and I seen the hosts just pick up the food and dump it all in a garbage bag, and I was shocked. And they were like, "Yeah, we don't eat leftovers," and I was just, like, not to judge, but just the concept that as Muslims we should not be wasting food, especially during Ramadan, especially the month that you're fasting all day and utilized it as a time to reflect on the blessings. As the famous poet, he says, وَالشُّكْرُ صَرْفُ الْعَبْدُ مَا أَوْلَى مَوْلَاهُ مِنْ نِعْمَةٍ فِي رِضَاهُ. He says that out of the gratitude for the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon us, we should utilize the blessings in a way that's pleasing to Him. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us with food, when so many people don't have that, should we really be wasting that easily? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that in the Quran, He says, وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا, eat and drink, but don't be wasteful. So that's something to keep in mind during Ramadan, whether you're eating at someone's house, don't overfill your plate. You can go back for seconds, go back for thirds. If you're putting small portions, that's fine, but just don't be wasteful of food. And then the second concept is, which I was coming to, is really portion control. And we'll often hear the famous, eat 1/3 and drink 1/3 and leave a third for breathing. And even in SubhanAllah, there's a really funny Palestinian method proverb that they say, you eat 1/3, drink 1/3, you have your dessert, you make room for the tea, and then you خلي النفس على Allah, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of your breathing. But really, this is like against the sunnah. This is exactly, what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam does not advise us. In fact, he says in the hadith, and we hear the ending usually, not the beginning. He tells us to sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the son of Adam does not fill any vessel worse than his stomach. And then he says, فَإِنْ غَلَبَتِ الْآدَمِيُّ نَفْسُهُ, if your desires defeat you. So it's a conditional statement. If our desires defeat us, to have a few bites. And the word nuqaymat, it comes from few morsels. So if our desires defeat us from having those few bites that suffice to keep our back straight, to give us energy so we can go pray tarawih, to give us energy for, to serve our family or to take care of our commitments and our duties. If our desires defeat us, he says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then you should have 1/3 food, 1/3 drink, and leave 1/3 for breathing, subhanAllah. So that's another advice I highly, highly advise to anyone listening. If you really want to boost your health, you want to feel energized during Ramadan, you don't want to feel sluggish, especially during the last 10 nights, then I highly recommend, if you really want that fatouche, you want to have that food that you really love, just go for smaller portions. It's going to play a big role in how you feel after eating. Allahu alam.
Yeah, great points. And that also can be applied after Ramadan, but outside of Ramadan, like what are recommendations just throughout the day? Like, how to, like an ideal day without fasting.
Yeah. So really keeping up with these different superfoods should be a basic daily habit. Things like, having fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, whole food diet, but also taking the superfoods like the black seed, taking honey, and taking olive oil daily. These things should be a staple in every Muslim household, every person's household, really. Also dates. Dates are not limited to Ramadan. Dates are loaded with benefits. And especially for people who are anemic, they're loaded with iron and the fiber in there. It's a natural, delicious, you can be consuming instead of going for something that's loaded with sugar and refined sugar or high fructose corn syrup, all these other things that lead to blood sugar spike and blood sugar dysregulation after meals.
Actually, very great point about the anemic part, because that's something a lot of people, I'm pretty sure, might be struggling with, and that's very, very important, especially now with coronavirus epidemic. So what are foods that can improve that and like increase, because even the Quran it's mentioned like the iron level, like iron. So really, really fast, like very short list of the foods or what you recommend to improve the iron level.
Yeah. So dates, of course, would be at the top of the list. Also, things like beans, great source of iron. Things like lentil as well. Lentil soup is often overlooked, but lentil soup is loaded with iron. It's loaded with fiber. It's loaded with protein. And another tip: dark leafy green vegetables do have a lot of iron. So if you're having kale, you're having spinach, they're great sources. But the thing about them is your body doesn't easily absorb the iron unless you consume it with vitamin C. So, for example, I often recommend one of the easiest favorites for too many people is if you're making spinach or kale or any other green vegetable and you're cooking it up, for example, into a stir fry, then I recommend getting fresh lemon juice and squeezing it and then, maybe tossing it on top after eating. Or if you're making a spinach salad or a kale salad, then put in fresh lemon juice, put in tomatoes as well. These help your body to absorb the iron better. And of course, other things like, good quality meat, looking for organ meat, like something that's overlooked is liver, loaded with so many benefits, especially when it comes to iron, it comes to vitamin A, it comes to other things as well. So these are a few things I'd highly recommend.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing these tips. Where can we find your book and you on social media to follow?
So all four of my books are available on Amazon. Sunnah Superfoods for kids, and then the Sunnah Superfoods for baby in Arabic, and then the other one in English as well, the A to Z book. They're also on my website, noortrition.com. That's Noor Trition, Trition.com. And then my social media, my Instagram is holistic_nutrition, and Facebook is Holistic Nutrition LLC.
Awesome. Please tag us, guys, when you take your favorite dish this Ramadan or anytime that you hear this episode. Tag Noor and I myself on social media to stay accountable and so that we can check on you as well, like, what you're eating and how we can help you stay active and healthy during COVID-19, inshallah. Thank you so much for your time, and any final notes before we head out?
That's pretty much it. Just I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants everyone listening good health and protects their family from any harm. And I pray that we all have a really beautiful Ramadan filled with ibadah, filled with a beautiful spiritual vibe. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from everyone, inshallah. Jazakallah khair so much for having me.
I mean, and also, if anyone's listening to this episode after Ramadan, we also have the 10 days before Hajj, so never forget those days as well. Jazakallah khair, Noor, and assalamu alaikum. Thank you for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe today and leave a 5-star review. You can also screenshot and share this episode with a family or a friend. Be strong, be fit for Akhirah.